I think it was when I saw my dad taser my mom while we were hunting for a colt was when I realized maybe my family is not the most normal family out there. My name is Alec Hamlin, and welcome to Trauma Dumping, Episode 1. This podcast explores trauma and the odd which ways we've survived it. So, on this podcast, we will be talking about trauma, as stated. I will be having multiple guests who will also talk about their trauma as well, and we will go ahead and just talk about it. We just dump our trauma onto each other. And, the main reason why is because we can't afford therapy. So this is the closest thing to it. So welcome to the couch. I am not a licensed therapist. I am just a person with ADHD, PTSD, and a bunch of other letters to random mental illnesses. So I feel that within this first episode, it's probably the smartest thing for me to go ahead and explain my qualifications of trauma, if you will. I kind of feel like trauma gets thrown around pretty liberally. I don't want to be the gatekeeper of trauma in any which way. But there are some times where I just, kind of feel like it's not as serious as it used to be. I honestly heard this person, she was talking to somebody else and she was saying, oh yeah, I know this waiter was being so rude to me. It was traumatic. Like, really? Really? Was that traumatic, Sharon? When, I'm thinking of trauma, I kind of look back to my own experiences, in which case I've had multiple documentaries on how much my childhood sucked. So I have an outside party where somebody else came in and said, your childhood was terrible. It was so bad. I want to make a movie of that. And I want to show other people that your childhood sucked. Basically, I just want to go ahead and kind of express what I went through and how I've survived through it. So today we're going to be going ahead and talking about an overview of what I went through. Now, it's a very summarized version. Obviously, how do you compact a whole childhood into the span of an hour? So obviously there's going to be some gaps, but we're going to go ahead and do the summarized version. I came from a very chaotic home. At the best of times, early on in my life, it was still chaotic. My father was just a very abusive man, whether it was being physically abusive. He was very abusive verbally, emotionally, everything. And the thing is that sucks about a situation like this is that it becomes so normal. So when I grew up, I never knew that my dad was abusive outright, at least. I remember there was a phase in my life where I did kind of start to catch on a little bit, and I would tell my friends, like, I could sue my dad for child abuse, because he spanks me and he curses in front of me. Oh, little Alec Hamlin, how naive you were that was the only thing that he was doing that would be considered as child abuse. Ha 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 ha. So, I did have at least somewhat of an understanding that something wasn't quite on the level. But for me, it was mostly just that I thought my dad was a hard ass. Hey, he's a tough dad. He's someone who yells, but everybody's kind of like that, right? There's some dads out there who are maybe a little bit more chill, maybe a little bit more calm, but dad's just a disciplinarian type of parent. So that's kind of what we thought. With me, my dad, he would drag me into this room. He would go and he would find like the hardest book that he could find. And then he would just Mickey Mantle swing right into my ass. So that was the best of times. That was legitimately when things were good, right? We would get disciplined like that. We would, I remember I would get thrown into walls here and there, like have my chin on there and just like, you wait here while I think about what I'm going to do. Right. And that was always like one of the most scary parts, was just knowing that dad is thinking. We don't want dad to think, because when dad thinks, his mind goes to some dark places. It was always bad, just as kind of a base. But the thing is with abuse is that abuse only escalates. Rarely does it ever get better. I've yet to find a person who has gone through abuse in their childhood and been like, yeah, like dad was, physically just terrorizing me. And then one day he woke up and was just kind of like, you know what? I've been going about this all wrong. I have yet to meet that person. I'm sure that person's out there. And to you, it's just so great how very, very lucky you were. But my family was not like that. I remember we were at a mall. Me and my brother got done dicking around in, whatever stores we were looking through, causing a ruckus in. And we go back to this restaurant, and my mom and dad are sitting out on a patio, and they're waiting for us because this is like the rendezvous spot. Conversation starts going, and I don't know how this gets brought up, but at one point he says, hey, your grandpa, he's not a good guy. He's not a good man, he's actually a very, very bad man. And he starts talking a little bit about abuse that he's done on my mom. This is my grandpa on my mom's side. So my mom's dad. It just starts out that simple. Just, hey, he's not a good guy. So that's where the chaos was born. When people think of what I went through, this crazy dad who, was addicted to meth and thought that a cult was coming after him. And, he was very abusive to his children and wife, his whole family. People think that was just how it was the entire time. But that wasn't the case. My dad was very abusive throughout the entirety of my childhood, as I said before. But the thing is that the real chaos of it all happened in the last 6 months to a year. Right? It happened, I want to say, mid-2003, and then ended on February 26th of 2004. And the thing is that the level of chaos that my dad put us through was so severe that there's no possible way that it could have kept going without either being noticed or all of us ending up dead. It started out with that talk at the restaurant. And then over the next couple months, it starts to build up into this big story that Grandpa's this evil guy. He's into the occult. He's the head of this certain cult, and they hate my dad. They're horrible, horrible people who are against my dad because my dad is this great Christian man, which is hilarious, by the way, because my dad was somebody who was out cheating on my mom left and right, beating up his family, being abusive on how he just talked to people in general, doing drugs, drinking, just not doing the things that you would think that a good Christian man would be doing. He orchestrates this story. He's gotten us all to believe it. We're all completely brainwashed. We're all drinking the Kool-Aid. What we didn't realize was that at the same time, Dad's snorting cocaine left and right because he's going through a bit of a midlife crisis, okay? He hit 40 and he said, you know what? I'm gonna go crazy, okay? He's doing drugs. He's already an alcoholic, but, now he's mixing years of alcoholism with excessive drug use in the form of cocaine and methamphetamine. And I later talked to my dad about this when I was visiting him in prison, because we actually did have a relationship after all this chaos took place. I went and saw him at the age of 21, and we had a very good relationship for about 12 years. Recently, we have stopped talking to each other for reasons that I won't fully get into. And unfortunately, that relationship is gone. But for 12 years, it was very, very good. And he was being the father that I needed him to be. So he was actually very open with some of the stuff that had happened behind the scenes. And the thing is that basically why he got onto meth, of all things, was that he was saying, yeah, I wanted to keep on partying, and I would go to Vegas, and I wanted to keep on going after girls late into the night. I wanted to keep on hanging out with my friends, but I was getting tired because I'm 40. So then I would start doing cocaine and methamphetamine to keep me up, to keep me wired, right? So I could go and keep on partying. So isn't it great that, you go through the worst abuse ever, and then you're sitting in a prison visitation room and your dad is telling you why you went through all that abuse is because he's just saying, I just wanted pussy. I just wanted that sweet, sweet poon. And that's why your life sucked. Wow, that's a great moment. That's a super fun father-son moment there. It's okay. We can all laugh at this. All right. I went through my childhood. I survived my childhood. We might as well use it for comedy. Okay. So the story continued to get out of hand. It was, this cult's coming after dad. And as the time is going on, dad's drug use is getting worse and worse. So dad's becoming more paranoid. Dad's becoming more irritable, aggressive. The story is now taking shape into this huge convoluted story. And us kids, we're eating that up. So I was the problem child. I was the kid that acted out, that always had something to say. And I got corrected a lot. My punishments would include having my bed taken away. And then I would have to sleep on the floor like a dog. My bed was a privilege. It wasn't a right for me as a child. And I think the craziest part to me too is when dad would come up the stairs and so since we lived up on the second floor, we would hear whenever one of the adults was coming up and we knew which one was which. Because anytime my mom came up, her knees would crack. Right. We would hear her bones popping and that was even before the abuse started. So, how she hasn't gotten horrendous arthritis, I have no idea. She was very distinctive in her footsteps. And in order to survive an abusive situation, you latch on to things like that. You find out identifiers of who your abuser is and who your ally is. Right. And it's something as subtle as even just the type of footsteps. So we'd hear the cracking, of mom's knees and be like, okay, cool. It's mom. She's fine. But then we'd hear that thump, thump, thump. It was just, even the footsteps were aggressive. Right. And that was dad. So I just remember the craziest thing for me was when he would come up after he had just, been screaming at me for an hour or so, or, just throwing me into a wall, throwing drawers at me, spanked me or hit me upside the head, he'd come back and he's sobbing and he lays down next to me on the ground. And, he's holding me and he's just crying, saying I wish that I could be a better dad. I'm so sorry. I don't want you to go through this. And it was so weird. And that was one of the things that threw me off was just these mood swings. Because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a therapist right now, let alone as an 11 or 12-year-old kid. I had no idea about psychology, right? I didn't know about sociopaths or psychopaths or, narcissists or anything like that. And so it really threw me off. My dad would if we had a bad report card, we would get summoned to the backyard and having to pull weeds all day. And I swear that motherfucker would not pull weeds for months before report card season, a month or two before report card season comes out. He's ready. He's like, oh, I know that kid's not passing class and I don't want to be doing yard work. Oh, Alec is going to be doing that whole entire yard. And I think that's a fine punishment for anybody. And for me, it did teach me about work ethic a bit. But he would wait for us to go out on 100-degree weather days, and then he would restrict water. So, we're out in the back just battling dehydration, just Dad, am I done? I think you still got a whole entire patch out in there in the backyard. Go and do that. Dad, I can't pull that weed. That thing's 3 feet. You know, that weed is the size of me, okay? I mean, just give me some water and I can give it a try. No, go out there, no water, no gloves. And then there was the other punishments, which included, getting whipped by a belt because I experimented with bad words. I mean, it was second grade. So this was even before the chaos started, which is crazy. It was second grade. And, I went to study hall because I was never good at school. And I was sitting at one of my friend's desks and I just decided, randomly, I don't know why, I just wrote, "Fuck you, Spencer." And, I was just experimenting with words. I was new to the world of fuck, right? Oh, little Alec, you did not realize the pleasures that you would have later on in life with that wonderful, wonderful word, fuck. It's just so great. It's liberating. Fuck. And I loved it. I immediately fell in love with that word. That's why I wrote it on somebody's desk. And for some reason, because I'm an idiot, because my brain decides to work against me actively any which way it can, I was, I guess, just not realizing that if I had a graphite pencil and drew on wood, I didn't realize that people would be able to see that. So I made no attempt at erasing this, and it was just, "Fuck you, Spencer." My dad didn't like that, which kind of sucked for me because timing was an issue. Because at this part of my life in second grade, he really was very much like, "Oh, don't you say bad words." If I had just waited a couple years, that's when he stopped caring, because he was just kind of like, "The kids have seen me just punch their mother right in the face. I really don't care if Alec just lets an F word kind of slip here and there." And you know what? Fair. That's totally fair, Dad. I think as soon as I see you punch Mom in the jaw, I feel like I'm entitled to a fuck once in a while. The word, not the action, because that would be wrong. That Monday, I get called in. They find out that I wrote it. I go home and I'm just waiting for Dad to come back. And the thing is that Mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she already reams me and she tells me, "I'm telling your dad." And Dad would get home late because he was a lawyer. So I had the whole day where I'm just waiting, and I know it's gonna be a fucking atom bomb being dropped on me. That night, I get dragged out of bed, thrown up against our armoire, because we had money at that point. You never really see a poor family with an armoire or any furniture that sounds French. So, I got my chin pressed up there, right? I'm bawling my eyes out because he had just spent the last, hour screaming at me, right? Threatening me, telling me, how terrible of a son I was in front of my brother. And he gets my brother to speak up to, like, tell him that he's brought shame and dishonor on the family. And, Ryan, because he's just as scared as I am, I don't hold this against him. He's just like, "Alec, I don't know why you did that, man." He then takes me downstairs, brings me to the computer room, and then he pulls out his belt. And to my understanding, because I didn't get raised in the 1950s, you poor bastards out there who did, I'm very, very sorry, because that's when child abuse was just not only legal, but strongly encouraged. They were like, "Hey, you know what's good parenting? Beating the shit out of your kids, because you had a bad childhood and this little son of a bitch needs to pay for it." So to my understanding, it's always they had the belt, but it was where they basically held on to both ends. So it's kind of a U shape, right? And then you hit your victim, let's call it as it is. You hit your victim with the U shape, the round part of the belt. My dad held on to one end and then, like a slave driver, whipped it up and whipped the belt buckle right at my bare ass. It hurt so fucking bad. And I was so scared because I knew that there was going to be more whips that I actually pissed myself. He had me take my pants down to my ankles, and I pissed myself from how scared I was, from how much it hurt. And he didn't see, luckily, thank God. He whips me 2 more times. My mom's in the room, and she's just kind of like, just a little, Alec, why did you do this? My mom was abusive in her own way, emotionally. She was never physically abusive. And my mom, the difference between my mom and my dad, my mom never intended to be abusive. She was a victim of my dad, and she was not given the proper tools to parent. So she made a lot of mistakes because she herself was a victim who was trying to pick herself up and just was not in the proper state to be a parent. So I will say in this moment, it wasn't like she was going along with this. It's just that dad's whipping the shit out of the kid. And if mom says anything, she's going to get whipped too. And so am I. So there's nothing that she can do. But I remember there was a sense of embarrassment that came after that because she feels the floor and she's like, why is the floor wet? And I remember I had to look over and be like, oh, because I was crying. Because I was crying and my tears, they pooled right there. That's it. So it's like this extra thing of just like, oh, I've just gotten beat. I'm in pain. Like anytime I bent over for the next week, like if I sat down, I was so fucking sore. And then there's just that extra layer of embarrassment. And the crazy thing was that my dad it was when the chaos was just so like at its worst, anything would set him off. I remember me and my brother, we were playing that pen and paper game, MASH. It was stuff like, name 5 places that you want to live. Name like 5 dream jobs and stuff like that. It's been a while since I played, so I don't know if I'm getting it completely correct. But me and my brother, we would just give unhinged answers. And we would just make this thing and, then we'd just be like, yeah, so like you, like that for places that you want to live, it's Hiroshima, 1945 or Chernobyl, right? Yada, yada, like, stuff like that. And we thought it was funny. My dad gets a hold of that and he's like, the cult made you do this, didn't they? The cult did this. They got to you when you were young. And then they made you write down these awful answers. So then that led to my dad going through my room and pulling out all of like the drawers, the shelves, looking through any papers that he could find, anything that I had, because he was like, I'm looking for codes. I'm looking for codes to break. There's codes everywhere. This was not a one-time thing. I remember, so he found certain things from kindergarten. You remember what you were like in kindergarten. You young, innocent child. You had so much dreams and unhinged, untethered creativity. You've just graduated from that stage of like, toddler and like very small child where everything is just intrusive thoughts, right? And now you're finally at a point where it's just like, I'm kind of almost a human. And you still do crazy things. So one thing that I like to do back when I was in kindergarten, I would run after people. I would not walk after people. I would run after people while hissing. Like I just did that, right? Because, that it was like this character that I did. I was always creative at heart. And it was called the Psycho Kitty Cat. Right. And people laughed. And, that was my stomping grounds as a comedian, as a character actor. And my dad pulls out this paper and it's just like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's like Psycho Kitty Cat. Now let's get past the part that I misspelled kitty cat. And let's just go into that. You read Psycho Kitty Cat and you're like, that's adorable. That's a child just saying something weird. For God's sake, we had a show about that in America. Kids say the darndest things, and that was a darndest thing being said. My dad saw that and was just like, the cult did something. So, I mean, like, at one point, I can't remember if this was what had connection to it, but then my dad was saying that, like, I got molested by my mom's side of the family, which wasn't true. And I got to a point where my dad was saying everyone got molested. When I say everyone, I mean, we were watching Die Another Day's music video. So Die Another Day was a terrible, terrible James Bond film. Sorry, Pierce Brosnan, to throw flack at you, because clearly you're listening to this podcast. Out of the probably 5 people watching this, Pierce Brosnan is definitely one of them. So my apologies, Pierce. But it's an awful film. Just truly terrible. We're watching that, and there was a music video from Madonna where she does the Die Another Day song. All right song. Better than the movie. All right music video. Interesting music video to watch. Better than the movie. And, my dad is watching this going like, she clearly was molested. She was molested. We're like, what? How, where did you get that from? He's like, this music video is a metaphor for her being trapped in her repressed memories from being molested by her dad. And she's trying to break out of that prison that her dad has put her into. And clearly, this is her asking for help. And we're so fucking, mind controlled at this point. We're just like, that checks out. Bet. All right. That's no cap. All right, cool. I mean, it was just, it was insane. he would find messages from just the weirdest places. This whole time that this is happening, me and my family, me and my brother and sisters, we're terrified that this cult is coming after us, constantly living in fear. And the thing is that now that there's this villain, Dad is no longer the villain. Dad is no longer the hard-ass type of character. And even though things were normalized, it was still, we wanted to leave the house. We didn't want to get yelled at anymore and all that. Now his behavior is completely justified because he's been chosen by God. He's after this cult. This cult is coming after us. They're dangerous. So everything that he does gets to be excused. And I honestly just realized that as I was sitting here talking. I have never really fully thought about that, but holy shit. That is a crazy level of manipulation there. Because this cult wasn't real. But now, regardless of whether he believed it or not, by creating this cult and telling it to us, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Because he's the good guy. He's the reluctant hero. He's the guy that we can rally behind. Let me explain some of the stories with this hero. We, for Halloween in 2003, I wanted to be William Wallace because I had just seen Braveheart. And my dad, he's like, let's get you a real sword. Can you imagine that, right? A father going like, hey, child, we should get you a weapon for, Halloween. Yeah. So we go down to the sword store and, we walk in and, the clerk is just like, hi, how you doing? And my dad's just like, great. I want to buy a sword. And, the guy's just like, you've come to the right place. So he gives my dad a sword. My dad gives this man money. And then this man is just like, I trust you to do whatever you're going to do with that. Have fun. Go out there and sword around. So he takes us back, and I remember the first day that we have this. He's trying to recreate this scene from The Bodyguard, this movie with Kevin Costner. And he throws up a piece of paper. He's like, kids, look how sharp this is. And he starts swinging it just violently all over the living room, trying to cut this falling piece of paper in half. Can't do it. You can't do it because you shouldn't imitate what you see in movies. But that's how my dad did. My dad would watch a movie. He was a very impressionable person. He would see a movie and he would just try to, take that and recreate it in real life. There was a fully grown man who was doing that. He liked to operate his life like he was the main character in his own action movie. Like everything that he did was like way over the top. I remember like we would find like a rattlesnake, right? My brother would be like, holy crap, there's a rattlesnake. Then my dad would come running in. Like this is the moment that he's trained for years. Throws my brother out of the way, just like, look out. And then he like chops the thing's head off, right? And just chucks it. I remember there was this vivid memory. He chops this rattlesnake's head off and then he grabs it. Like, he like scoops it up onto the shovel. And then like, he just throws his whole body into this, like he just like this thing like had just tried to attack his family and he's taking it personally. He's just like, fuck you, and just chucks it over this fence. Yeah, I mean like everything he did was just over the top. Anyway, so we get the sword and, have a fun Halloween. And, we're going door to door. Trick or treat quickly becomes, a hostage situation or treat. Like give me a treat. Otherwise, shing. I'm an 11-year-old kid with a sugar addiction and I'm armed. Okay. You figure out how you want to go about this. So it was a fun night. And then we have this sword, this real life sword lying around. And my dad is just like, he comes out from his room one day, nose bleeding because he's, his love for what we thought was sugar. He comes up to us like, Alec, I got this great idea. You are gonna fucking love it. And now he's jazzed up, so I'm getting jazzed up. I'm like, okay, he's like, yeah, Dad, what's up? He's like, we're gonna get this fucking sword, okay? Okay, all right. Are you following me? We're gonna get this sword. We're gonna put it up on your wall, right above where you sleep. And, now, once again, he's jazzed up. I'm just like, yeah, man, that sounds so fucking great. He's like, right? Doesn't it sound like the best idea ever? This is like, your friends are going to come over to this house. They're going to look over and they're going to be like, that kid's got a fucking sword. This kid is fucking cool, right? I mean, that's going to be all that people are going to be talking about at your school. Like, hey, that's the kid with a sword. And I just think that this is the greatest, thing in the world. Because I'm a child. I'm 11, maybe 12. And, I'm seeing my dad super excited about something. And also I'm thinking he's the grown up. He will probably be safe about whatever is going to happen. Because he puts 2 flimsy nails into the wall above my head, unsheathes the sword, and then rests it on the nails. I like to sleep with the window open. One big gust of wind comes in and I'm not waking up the next morning. And that's a funny story to tell. I still tell that story today and it gets laughs. But the thing that happened after that, my dad takes the sword off of the nails. And he uses it on my mom. My mom has, her finger is bent because he almost took the finger off and it didn't heal correctly. That's the hero that was in this house. My mom had broken ribs that didn't heal right. My mom had, mangled up eye socket, I believe. I could be wrong. That didn't heal right. Finger that didn't heal right. She had stab wounds that were meticulously hid behind her ear from when my dad would jam a pen into her skull during his memory getting sessions, what he liked to call, which was basically just torture sessions where he would go and beat the shit out of my mom and implant false memories into her brain, going like, your dad did this to you, didn't he? Your dad, the cult leader, did this. And she'd be like, I don't remember that. That didn't happen. And they're like, no, it did. And then he'd beat the shit out of her. And then she'd be like, you know what? After you just beat me and tased me, it's so weird. It's all coming back now. Please stop doing that. That's the hero that we believed, was leading us and saving us. my dad started taking us on trips. We went down to this one town. We were looking for a family friend, or who originally was a family friend. Still a family friend to me, at least. Shout out to Ashley. Great person. One of the best friends I've ever had. Her family was very close to ours, so how we knew them was my mom grew up with this woman, Lisa. They were best friends growing up. They had stayed in touch. At first, Lisa seemed like, she was an ally to Dad, so Dad loved her. But Lisa was one of the few people who was actually acting and trying to figure things out behind the scenes and going like, there's something wrong at the Hamlin house. So then she became an enemy. So Dad took us on this trip. In my brain, what I thought was going to happen was that we were going to go and talk to her. Maybe my dad would yell at her. Maybe we'd egg her house because I'm an innocent child. We were going there to kill her. That's fully what my dad wanted to do. Thank God there was a vine that was covering the street sign, so we couldn't find her. That whole day, we were driving around. Me and my brother got paintball guns that we've frozen the paintballs, so it could legitimately, like if we got a headshot, that could possibly kill someone or at least provide brain damage. Whole entire time, my dad's just beating my mom. I saw him tase my mom, saw him pistol whip her, and at one point, he pulls off. It's the middle of the night. They get out of the car because stuff isn't going right. And I remember watching. I remember looking out the windshield, seeing my dad take my mom out into the darkness in this infinite field. I look over at my brother who's sitting next to me, and he puts up ear protection over his ears. So I do it. And I don't know why. But I know that if I'm putting on ear protection, that means that gun is going to go off. And yet I still don't put it together that my dad was taking my mom out into a field to shoot her. Minutes go by. Feels like a fucking eternity of not knowing what's happening, waiting for this gun to go off. And then suddenly, my parents come back out of the darkness, into the car. They don't say anything about what happened. Nothing is said. We just drive off. Me and my mom have talked about this. We've later come to the conclusion that Dad was most likely, as he was holding a gun up to my mom's head in this field, he was most likely thinking, how am I going to explain this to the cops? Because he was a lawyer. He was smart. He knew what they would look for. He knew that he would probably be the suspect that they would look into. The husband's always the one who does it, right? So we let her live. We came back. We pull up to, a neighbor's house that we had left my sisters with. And I remember my dad leaves and he's going to go and talk to these people and pick up my sisters. And me and my brother, we're guarding my mom because at this point, my mom is now evil, according to my dad, right? And, I remember we have to watch her with our paintballs. And Ryan's goes off and just scares the living shit out of my mom. And I remember I'm just telling my mom vile shit. Just hateful things, because in my mind, she's the enemy. That's what my dad did. He turned her against us. Sorry, he turned us against her. My apologies. Another instance, I remember seeing, either I saw this happen, my memory's a little hazy on this. I can't remember if I saw this happen or if I came in right after it happened, or my dad threw a sewing machine at my mom's face. And I remember being in this hallway, seeing my dad throwing garbage at my mom while she's on the ground crying and screaming. There's blood. And I can't remember who started it first. It was probably Ryan, because he was the responsible kid. He starts picking things up first. And then I start picking trash up as well to try and help my mom. And I remember my dad got mad that we tried to help, and he's like, you let her finish it. I'm like, all right, well, Dad said it. So this whole entire conspiracy that my dad had, and I understand that there's so many missing pieces that I haven't told the whole story. I mean, honestly, I don't even know where to start in an hour episode on how to paint a full story of this. So I do apologize. And there will be further episodes that explain more in detail. This conspiracy turned into Mom was the villain. Mom was helping. Mom was trying to get Dad killed. And Dad was basically telling us, we're going to turn Mom in. We're going to get a new mom. We're going to move down to San Diego. We're going to restart our lives. So we're going along with it. We're like, all right, I guess that's what's going to happen. And so it's February 26th, 2004. My dad's taking my mom to go and admit to molesting all of us kids. Something she did not do, but something that she was going to admit to. My dad brings her out and just like, all right, kids, say goodbye to your mom. And we all said goodbye. But then I was the only one who went up and hugged her. And I don't fully know why I did it. Because I hated my mom at that point. My dad had made me hate my mom. But I remember thinking, that's my mom. This is the last time that I'm going to see my mom. I remember making shrinky dinks with this person. I remember faking a stomach ache so I could go home and hang out with my mom. I was a complete mama's boy when I was a kid. And now she was gonna leave forever. So I just wanted one last hug. So my dad takes her away. He tells us like, okay, hey, so my colleague Dina is going to come and get you guys. I'm going to meet up with me later on. And we're going to live happily ever after. So he leaves. Me and my brother, this is how fucked up this was. We're literally told that my mom is going to be out of our lives. As soon as they leave, it's just business back to usual. It's like, oh, that was sad. Okay, but now she's gone. All right, everything's normal again. Me and my brother just go back to like, well, hey, what do young kids do whenever their parents are gone? We're just watching porn. We're we're eating sweets. We're watching movies that we shouldn't be watching. We're drinking a whole bunch of soda, and then we start to realize, where the fuck is Dina? The person that, is going to come and get us. It's getting late. And we're starting to wonder, like, what's going on? What happened was that Dina was one of the very few people who did something as well. She hears the story that my dad says, and then she's like, this fucker's crazy. I'm going to call somebody. And then that's when CPS comes a knocking on our door. And that's where I got to meet two police officers and a CPS agent that we will only refer to as Raven the Bitch. So Raven the Bitch tells us, hey, you guys got to go upstairs, get enough packed up for a night, and come with me. Me and my brother, we don't understand. My sisters especially, they're way too young to understand what's going on. We just understand we're going to get taken away from Dad. We're pissed. This is our home. You don't fucking come into our home and tell us that we can't live in our home anymore. You don't come into my family and tell me that I can't be with my family anymore. We don't understand. I'm a 12-year-old fucking kid. So I go upstairs, I pack. We load up in Raven the Bitch's car. And I'll be honest, we were terrible to this woman. Said terrible things. We were being fucking awful. Calling her a bitch. Calling her every fucking name that we could. And then I remember my brother, he's doing this weird thing where he's like, spouting off history facts, like, just like, do you know this history fact? No, you don't. I'm smarter than you, bitch. Like, how dare you? Like, it was just like the most petty thing ever. But look, we're kids. And she tells us to stop being brats. That's why she is still referred to as Raven the bitch. I understand that we were being brats, but we were children. She is a trained professional who is used to dealing with children at high stress situations. I guarantee you we were not the first, nor were we the last kids to be uppity. She should have fucking handled the situation better. Raven the bitch. She earned that title. So we got taken away. We got put into foster care. And that'll obviously be a topic for a different time. But long and skinny of it, we got split up. Me and my brother got reunited later on. There were some good moments of foster care. There were some really bad moments of foster care. One of the bad moments was finding out that dad had lied about everything. That mom was a victim, just like us, having our whole entire world flipped upside down. That was a bad moment. That was a really bad fucking moment. We're in foster care for months. Then we finally got brought back to my mom's. And, most people like to say that's the happy ending. It wasn't. That doesn't all just go away because you get your abuser out, because you get to go back with your mom. Fuck, our story was just opening up a new chapter. Chapter filled with PTSD, depression, anger, so much anger, and not understanding what we were going through. And that's where comedy comes from. So in my childhood, in my teenage years after my childhood, I used comedy to get through a lot of stuff. And, how I survived was through art. How I survived was making jokes about everything. So I had a very dark sense of humor. Still do, obviously. And I think it's because of what I went through, I've used that and created this comedic perception of the world. I choose to try and laugh at pain because I feel like that's really the one and only way that we can truly conquer something, is to laugh at it. If you laugh at something, you own it. And that's what I do. That's what I've done on TikTok. I make funny videos. Here and there, I joke about my life. So that's what this podcast is going to be. This was episode 1. We are going to be inviting other people onto this show to tell me about their trauma. And not every episode is going to have a guest. There's going to be plenty that it's just me talking about a certain situation. But we're going to talk about our trauma and how it's shaped us and how we are affected by that. And, as you can tell from this episode, some episodes are going to be a bit more serious. Some episodes are going to be fucking hilarious. Some episodes are going to be a very big blend of both. I implore you to come and dump your trauma on the show. All right, guys, that was episode 1. I hope that you enjoyed. As you guys continue to watch these episodes, you'll be able to learn a little bit more about my life, about what I've gone through, about certain traumas, and you'll get to hear some very, very funny stories as well. So thank you for listening. I am Alec Hamlin, and before you go, I just want you to know that you are a person of value. You matter in life. You are deserving of love, life, and happiness just as much as me or anyone else out there. And if you haven't heard this from anybody else, I want you to hear it from me. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for choosing life. Have a good one, guys. I will see you in the next episode. Have a jolly good day.